competition in this space from phones like the Redmi Note 3 and Lenovo's own Moto G4 and ZUK Z1. So in spite of all this competition, does the Vibe K5 Note stand a chance, and is this the phone that you should buy? Well, let's find it out in my full review of the Lenovo Vibe K5 Note. Starting things off with design and build quality, the K5 Note looks like a blend of the Le Echo Le 2 from the front and the Redmi Note 3 on the back. The back is made out of aluminium, which gives it a nice feel in the hand, but the sides for some reason are made out of plastic. As a result, the power button and the volume rockers do feel quite cheap to use. Even the Redmi 3S, which is a much cheaper smartphone, has better buttons than the K5 Note. It does not affect the functionality of the phone, but it does give a slightly cheap feel. Overall, the build quality is good for the price, but it's not the best in the segment. The fingerprint sensor is located on the back and it is good and responsive. It is overly responsive at times and it did trigger sometimes when the phone was in my pocket. There's also a loudspeaker at the back which was surprisingly loud and clear. Lenovo keeps boasting about the Dolby audio system on this phone, and it definitely sounds better than some of the smartphones in the segment. However, I would have preferred the speakers to be on the front or on the bottom because the audio gets muffled when you keep the phone on its back. The audio output via the headphone jack was also really good. In fact, it's better than any other phone in this price bracket. Lenovo is also offering the Ant VR headset with the K5 Note. So they are targeting people who consume a lot of media on their smartphones, and the K5 Note definitely excels when it comes to media consumption. Moving on to the insides of the K5 Note, we have an octa-core Helio P10 CPU along with 3 or 4 GB of RAM and a Mali T860 MP2 GPU. These specifications sound very mediocre as compared to some other phones, and honestly I did not expect this phone to perform well, but the K5 Note surprisingly performs really good. I have already done a gaming review of this phone in which we saw that it had no issues in handling some of the heavy-end games. The memory management was also good on the phone, and the Helio P10 CPU had no issues in handling day-to-day usage on the phone. That's because the Vibe UI from Lenovo is not very heavy, and it is in fact majorly based on stock Android. It does have a few useful additions though, like using the fingerprint sensor to carry out some other functions, and Secure Zone, which lets you have 2 different accounts on the same phone. The quick settings bar is also neatly designed, but I have a few complaints with the Vibe UI. First of all, Lenovo should not have given so many pre-installed apps on this phone. I know some of them can be uninstalled, but they could have just given the phone without these extra apps. Also, while the Vibe UI is smooth overall, I did notice minor stuttering in some animations quite a few times, especially in apps like YouTube. Hence, Lenovo should definitely work on refining their user interface with the help of some software updates. Moving on to the camera of the K5 Note, we have a 13 megapixel